So I was thinking about love.
Love is one of the most complicated and difficult things to describe accurately because of how subjective it can be. But a very wise philosopher once quoted,
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more.
What's up guys, in today's video we'll be looking into the ideas and expectations romantic love in Hollywood movies have set and why these ideas might contribute to the dissatisfaction and failure of a lot of relationships. Now, while Hathaway might not exactly be a philosopher, those lyrics do highlight what I would consider one of the features or characteristics of love, which is vulnerability and the ability of another person to hurt you because of that. A lot of times when we feel like we're in love, the last thing we want is to feel like that love is not reciprocated. That level of vulnerability and control we feel someone has over us puts us in a heightened state of sensitivity and even irrationality. Also, we can flee at any sign of threat to our emotional well-being. This feature of love is based in fear, which, if not gotten a proper handle on, would not even allow it to go any further than it potentially could. And because of this, a lot of us want that vulnerability protected and validated. We fantasize about the idea of someone being obsessed with us or offering us constant reassurance about their own vulnerability, maybe even willing to risk their life for us. Romantic love portrayed in mainstream Hollywood movies and a lot of romance novels has created an unrealistic idea of love, and in doing so, an unrealistic idea for long-term relationships.
As a pre-app civilization, your love's value is defined by scarcity. You are highly trained to seek it, and you have no idea how to maintain it. Had you bothered to master love, you would have learned by now it is as abundant as water. You know what isn't? Water. That runs out.
The norm in society today is that relationships be built on that foundation. And like our alien friend over here says, we have failed as a civilization to truly understand love and believe it's this extremely scarce resource. So we desperately seek this poorly understood version of it, hopping from one perfect match to the other. For a lot of us, when we're entering into adulthood, as much as we might be reluctant to acknowledge it, our idea of what an ideal relationship that is filled with love should look like comes from what we have either seen in romantic movies and TV shows or read in books. This happens either consciously or subconsciously. While some of the ways we express love is influenced by our parents and our childhood, I believe we vastly underestimate the effect these media outlets have had on us as well. Today we'll be focusing on two ideas that have been sold to us about love and how these have created a very unsustainable approach to long-term relationships. The first one is the soulmate.
I met my soulmate when I was 15 years old. We went out for ice cream. After my dad started teasing me about my first date, the way dads do, and I told him, Dad, it's no big deal. I'm going to be going out with a lot of different girls on a lot of different dates. And that is the first time that I ever lied to my father.
We've all seen this one too many times, and many of us believed in it at some point or still do. That there is one particular special person in the world spiritually destined to perfectly complement you, understand everything about you with little to no explanation, that they will be the source of your happiness that you never knew you were lacking, and simultaneously bring an end to any loneliness you might have been feeling in this cruel world. This idea is very common in romantic movies and shows where you might have this either hopeless romantic character or out of the realms of society character that goes unnoticed by everyone around until they meet this dashing individual that everyone fawns over. And there might be a bit of friction at first between them, but then there's this magical moment where the script flips and they don't notice anyone else and don't take anyone else seriously but them. Sometimes the journey to love for them might be riddled with trials. Eventually they overcome, and they have the realization based off of instinct that they have found their soulmate. And once you find them, it's happily ever after. Roll credits. In romantic movies, a lot of importance is placed on that feeling or instinct, and some shows have even described it more dramatically.
Okay, Victoria. There is a word in German, lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz, and the closest translation would be lifelong treasure of destiny. And Victoria ist wunderbar, but she is not my lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz. She is my beinahe leidenschaftlicher Gegenstand. Yeah?
So we've been made to believe that there's this perfect person for us out there that will give us this amazing, joy-filled life. And not just that, but also they will love the same things that we love, and our flaws won't matter. And if they do, then they are just not the one.
Not continue acting as if I do not love you. Because I do. I love all of you. Even the parts that you believe are too dark and too shameful. Every scar, every flaw, every imperfection. I love you.
Those flaws are to be seen as quirky and unique, and initially they might be. Those are the little things we find lovable about the person, until they aren't.
I just remembered why I didn't call you.
Why?
I can't believe I'm gonna screw this up again, but I like finding typos in menus.
What?
And I know my shellfish pun is stupid, but the truth is, I'm not suddenly gonna stop making stupid jokes.
Now that you mention it, I'm never gonna stop talking about my cats. They're funny and adorable and totally worth having to take 6 Benadryl a day.
After a while, it is inevitable that there will be things about another human that will drive us up a wall. This is just what comes with familiarity and comfortability. And rather than holding on to the idea of a perfect person, we should realize that this doesn't exist. And it's a lot of pressure to put on another person to be perfect, to be the reason that we find happiness in the world, and the reason that we are no longer feeling lonely for the rest of our lives. We are all deep down quite damaged people, and a lot of times in ways we might not realize. And it's easy to think, rather than dealing with some of those insufficiencies that we could improve, we just hope we win the lottery of finding someone that doesn't see those flaws as flaws. And it's by no means a fault of our own that we do not realize just how much of a pain we can be to be with. Rarely do people do us the courtesy of telling us our shortcomings. If it was bad enough, they just wouldn't associate with us, especially because a lot of people have a negative reaction to being told about their annoying habits. And if it was bearable, then they'll just bear it, or they might just not care, just like with a lot of our friends. But when a partner starts to mention these things about us that might not be our most flattering characteristics, our first instinct is to get defensive. Romantic movies show us this complete acceptance of another flawed person, even as far as loving those flaws. And because it is probably the first time someone is criticizing us like this, we assume they must not love us. Our friends and family don't criticize us about those things, and they must love us. Yes, but they are not on a path to living with us day in, day out for as long as we can see. Rather than getting defensive and thinking the worst of the relationship and believing we need to find someone that we think actually loves us, we should, outside of a relationship, take a journey of self-discovery to understand ourselves and figure out how we might be damaged either from our childhood or from our experience with another person, and begin taking steps to fix that. And if we find someone before that is completely fixed, it should be normal at some point in the relationship in the early stages for us to be upfront with just how damaged we might be, and also being receptive and open to how mad and equally flawed the other person is, rather than having this expectation and putting on a performative act of perfection and compatibility for one another to create this idealistic relationship that we've been sold. Especially in this age of technology that we're in, with more dating apps that exist than real life problems, it's very easy for us to look for the slightest signs of incompatibility with a partner to mean doom for a relationship, and to move on to the next match, and to keep looking for that perfect pairing that's filled with excitement that romantic movies promised us, rather than trying to improve ourselves and being patient with someone else doing the same. I saw a quote that said, "Compatibility isn't a prerequisite for love, it is the derivative of it." And honestly, growing up, and to some extent even now, I had this mindset that seeking compatibility first when looking for a relationship would lead to one filled with love. And even while being aware of this, it takes a bit of cognitive remapping to be able to put this into effect. This doesn't mean incompatibility doesn't exist, but to think it's something that cannot be worked on and that compatibility has to be instantaneous, or that incompatibility is barren soul for love, is not entirely true. And I asked you guys on Instagram if you think love is a choice or a feeling, and a lot of you said you think it's a feeling. And to be honest, being a Pisces, I used to think it was a feeling as well. But after learning and thinking about everything mentioned in this video, I believe leaving the expectations we seem to have for love, especially for the foundation and maintenance of long-term relationships and marriages, to the whims of our feelings, will always leave us extremely disappointed, frustrated, and maybe even misguided. Feelings are fickle, they change all the time. Someone could make you happy for so long, for years and years, and then completely crush your soul and make you sad that you never want to talk about them again. Yes, I'm referring to Game of Thrones. It is difficult to feel like appreciating the good parts of someone and feel like having the patience to understand the flaws of another person. We all like to think the best of ourselves, but the truth is we can all be quite impatient. I believe while love can start out as a feeling, true love is what persists after making a series of choices to nurture and maintain it. And this moves us to the second idea romantic movies and TV shows have sold us, which is, ironically, the exaggerated power of love. Now, the truth is, the main downside of romance in film and TV shows is not necessarily that what they show is entirely unreal, but that is all they show. It is entirely possible that these moments will exist in relationships, and a lot of people use this as a template for what to display on social media. But there is a lot of in-between that doesn't get shown, and that's because, to be honest, what they're showing us right now is doing pretty well. And it's what a lot of people like seeing. The overall plot of love in these movies and shows advocates for a type of love that transcends logic, reason, and any mortal problem you can imagine, just by that strong feeling.
That nothing about me and Barney makes any sense.
But love doesn't make sense. I mean, you can't logic your way into or out of it. Love is totally nonsensical, but we have to keep doing it or else we're lost and love is dead and humanity should just pack it in. Because love is the best thing we do. Look, I know that sounds cheesy, but it's just true. You love Barney and he loves you. And that doesn't have to make sense to make sense.
And again, this type of love is mostly only during the first phase of it, which is mainly infatuation, when the rose-tinted glasses might still be on, and makes it easier at this stage to let a lot of things slide. We see two people who are interested in each other, but one might be quite distant and does not express this interest, But because love exists, the other party will do anything, even the most ridiculous, illogical things, to keep pursuing them because they love them. This is a true expression of love, we are told. If you love them, keep persisting. But one thing some accurately show is that this gesture is only accepted with certain people, and you cannot really know if you are that person. But try anyway.
I'm the last woman in the world who could make you happy.
I flatter myself, cousin, that your refusal is merely a natural delicacy. Besides, you should take into account that despite your manifold attractions, it's by no means certain that another offer of marriage may ever be made to you.
Mr. Collins.
So I must conclude that you simply seek to increase my love by suspense.
Sir.
According to the usual practice of elegant females.
Sir. I am not the sort of female to torment a respectable man. Please understand me, I cannot accept you.
Sometimes we see instances of friction between the characters and maybe feel bad for them, but over and over, they overcome these issues, not by effective communication, but by the strong, insurmountable, emotional feeling of love that they share. Their true love needs no words. They finish each other's sentences and need not speak on the matter because they just understand each other. This romantic idea makes us believe that with the right person or with the one, we are easily understood. They should be able to read our minds even, and we don't have to explain anything. And when this doesn't happen in real life, we feel extremely frustrated with them when they fall short of these Xavier-esque abilities. We might refuse to have a discussion with them about the issue because we are scared that once we do, it means we might have chosen the wrong person to spend the rest of our lives with. Seeing as based on the standards of romantic love, they clearly don't love us.
Angry. Marie, what are you angry about? Marie. 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 Marie, talk to me.
Like we said earlier, rather than leaving this very complicated human dynamic to strong feelings alone, we should instead take an approach of adding a bit of logic and reason to love in the context of long-term relationships especially. We should be able to openly discuss why them leaving their underwear on the floor next to the bed bothers us, and why you were upset about the way you were treated at the party with your friends. Discuss your dissatisfaction with patience and kindness rather than making assumptions and relying on the mystical power of love we've been fed. And this is in no way saying you should not want excitement in your relationships or not have any standards for picking a partner. You can be an understanding person and understand that this person is just an and is not someone fit to be in a relationship. But our standards and criteria should be done from a healthy perspective of self-reflection as to what it is that you truly want and the things needed to build a solid relationship, rather than using the template or prerequisites set by Hollywood or novels or even social media. And even then, doing all these things might not guarantee the relationship will last infinitely. Even the seemingly most practical relationships end, but getting rid of that perfect happy ever after picture from romance definitely gives you a better chance.